Today I fucked up by telling my daughters their pet had died, when they hadn't. So my daughters have a pet axolotl, kind of a cross between a fish and a salamander, with external gills. And they came into me from their playroom panicking as she was just floating in the water. So I went in, and saw it lying on the surface of the water, limp and just spinning in the current from the filter pumps. So I opened the tank, and poked the axolotl. Nothing. I apologized to the kids, explained that it looked like she was dead. Cue tears, wailing and just horrible times. Wife was out, after a few hours, and planning what to do with the body, discussing with the girls that perhaps a not-jet axolotl may not be the best bet due to all the care they take. My wife popped her head into the playroom, and the axolotl was there, walking along the bottom of the tank, looking for food, perfectly happy and healthy. Happy days. Apparently, this is just something axolotls do sometimes. Except from the heartbreak the girls, and I, experienced. Too long did not read. I thought my daughter's pet axolotl was dead, explained to the kids, consoled them, and planned the funeral. Then my wife saw the axolotl perfectly happy and alive in the tank. Not dead, cold sweat smile. You're sure this isn't you covering for your wife replacing the axolotl op? I had a summer job in college and worked next to a family guy named Ken. He had a young son named Kenny. His kids had a pet hamster named Teddy. One afternoon, I am sitting in my office when Ken answers his phone next door. The next thing I hear is the sound of Ken screaming, "What?" at full volume. Later on, we find out that his little daughter had called him. She was crying and said, "Teddy is dead." But with all of the sobbing, Ken mistakenly thought she had said, "Kenny is dead." Telling someone that a pet has died is bad, but it can always be made worse. Just FYI to anyone reading this that doesn't already know, an axolotl is type of salamander that evolved to stay in its juvenile aquatic form. It's not some other sort of fish like animal or a newt. Pretty exotic pet though, glad it's okay. Get used to it. When I had axolotls and people came over, they freaked out about them being dead so many times, I lost count. I saw one at a zoo with a sign saying, "I am not dead." I had to stay in the hospital for a few weeks when I was a young adult. I left my axolotl with my mom. She said there were multiple occasions she walked in and went, "Crap, I'm going to have to tell her it died," because he would just be floating at the top. Sometimes they float when conditions are less than good, but sometimes they just float lol. My guy lived to be 10 plus years old. My ex had a crazy roommate who assassinated her betta fish. We came home and the bowl was spilled all over the kitchen floor. I volunteered to clean it up and the fish started flopping around. Turn out betta fish breathe air. We moved it into the bedroom and allowed the roommate to think it was dead. Today I fucked up by telling my coworker something that made him spiral. A week or so ago, my coworker, 32 male, and I, 24 male TF, were complaining about our bosses after each of us separately being scolded and mocked by our assistant supervisor and plant supervisor for supposedly not being good at our job after each of us had messed up in our own area. We are both floaters for a chair factory where I was standing in for our inspector and missed a minor defect, and he was gluing foam to some shells and they were so lumpy you could see it through the fabric. During our complaining I had said, "I don't get paid enough to deal with how low my mental health has been since starting here." He agreed and asked how much I made. When I answered, it turned out to be $3 per hour more than him. He brought it up to our supervisor and said he wanted a raise. Our supervisor explained to him I got hired to at a higher rate because I had more experience, went to college, IDK, what not finishing a broadcasting degree has anything to do with being a chair factory floater, and because I was going to be doing harder tasks and tasks that only one other person does. He became obsessed with the fact I got paid more than him, telling every who would listen that he works 10x harder than me and that he should get paid more than me. Throughout the week he got more and more angry to the point of not being able to talk about anything else. Today he went to our supervisor's office and demanded they pay him more than me. I don't know the full details, but I do know they fired him and worried about him about returning with a vengeance. So much so that I have been told this is the first time they have locked the doors of the factory in at least 40 years. Too long did not read. I told my coworker how much I make and he spiraled about how I made more than him until he got fired. This isn't your fault. Wage transparency ensures no one is being underpaid and you didn't do anything wrong by being honest. While asking for a raise because X earns more than him was his mistake, employers usually don't like that. Then not letting it go made it much worse. Crazy how just mentioning your pay ended up costing him his job and got the whole factory on edge. You didn't fuck up. Not only is it legal to discuss your wage with your coworkers, everyone should. That's how you all help ensure everyone is paid equitably. Frankly, everyone should know how much everyone else is making. Employers don't want you to know so they can continue to pay employees less than what they deserve. Edit. Corrected. employers to employees in the last sentence. Nah, your coworker isn't mad you got a higher rate, he's mad that he brought it up and found out he's the one that's underpaid. This is why CEOs encourage employees not to talk about salaries. But you should. Your coworker should be bringing this up to your boss. You didn't do anything wrong, but the corporate culture of not talking about salaries only benefits the CEOs and this clusterfuck of late-stage capitalism we are all living in.